IMARA Woman Magazine. I'm Wendy Brawley and delighted that you're tuning in this Sunday. We have with us today our lovely co-host, Ms. Jessica Martinez.
Hello.
And to her right, we have Dr. Marcia Brevard-Wynn.
Hi.
And to the far right, we have Donna Ayers.
Pleasure to be here.
Welcome back, Donna. We missed you last time.
I missed you.
Well, you know, we have a very interesting show today. With the summer here, I think a lot of our conversation is going to center around young people, which is good. And our first topic is one that's been in the news a whole lot lately, and it's about the Boy Scouts of America. I don't know if you're aware, I'm sure you are, it's been on every news report. The Boy Scouts are now openly accepting openly gay scouts into the organization. And there are about 3 million scouts across the country. And this is a decision that's going and has been causing reverberation all over the country. Just in the last several weeks, the Southern Baptist Association has said that it is recommending to all of its 47,000 churches to discontinue their support of the Boy Scouts because of their decision to accept and to allow openly gay scouts. I have a couple of questions, but the first one is, you know, how do you feel about that? I mean, how do you feel about the Boy Scouts of America allowing openly gay scouts?
I think they're actually taking a step in the right direction. This is a band that they've had in this organization for over a century, and in order to remain relevant, just like the Girl Scouts, 4-H clubs, Boys and Girls Club of America, they've been accepting gays for some years now, so it's time that the Boy Scouts did catch up, so to speak. So I think they're definitely heading in the right direction, even though there is some opposition to it.
How about you, Don?
I agree.
Wow. And you're my conservative one.
That's right, and also a Southern Baptist.
Really?
Think about what would Jesus do? What would his reaction be? And, you know, he ministered to those who needed it the most. He was not somebody who was exclusive. He was inclusive. And so that's how I feel about it.
How about you, Jessica?
Well, I don't really think there's anything wrong with having gay scouts.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they were mentioning the scout leaders being gay, and I have nothing against gays, you know, or anything like that. I'm kind of on the fence. I don't know how
I sense
feel.
a little hesitancy
Yeah.
in your voice. Do you have children?
I do.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I would feel comfortable with my son going to Boy Scout and his scout leader being gay.
Well, let me just say this, though. The decision that they made to change the policy really, at this point, only applies to the members in the scouting organization. They did not change their policy with respect, at least not thus far, with respect to scout leaders. So scout leaders cannot be openly gay and still be a scout leader as of, I think the new policy takes effect January 2014. So does that allay some of your fear or concern?
It's not, you know, I'm on the fence. I have nothing against people that are gay. It's just that I feel that if that's the way you want to live your life, that's fine. But I don't see why. Not saying that it's forced on people or anything like that. I mean, I don't have a problem with the children, you know, the kids, if they decide to be gay. But sometimes I feel that, you know, they have more rights than other people. Like, you know, you're gonna have your wedding, that's fine, but I don't have to go to it.
Well, let me elaborate on what she's saying.
Yeah.
I agree with Jessica. It's one thing for the children. I think it is different when you're talking about a leader. And this is an organization that's already had some problems with some allegations of sexual abuse, which is a topic we're also going to talk about later. And so it's certainly not saying that somebody that's openly gay is also a pedophile and is going to take advantage of that situation. But when you already have those proclivities, and also being in a leadership role, if you have a young person that may be confused about their sexuality, or they're getting a different message at home than what they're getting at Scouts. I agree with Jessica. I'm a little bit on the fence about having an openly gay Scout leader. It's different having the adult versus the child.
Well, I'm listening to you all make the differentiations, is that a word? The differences between your opinions. It's interesting that you mentioned children or child a lot. But, keep in mind that a lot of the Scouts are adults. I don't know that the line being with children is more permissive than having the line at all, because I think that they're going to have to deal with the larger question too. It's coming. Why can't you have a gay Scout leader?
I think eventually they're going to have to move in that direction now that they've taken a vote of this magnitude to allow the Scouts to be gay. I think eventually it's going to get to the place where they're like the other organizations and do have gay leaders. And from my perspective, as long as those leaders have great leadership skills, their sexual preferences have nothing to do with the skills they bring for in that organization. I don't think that has anything to do with it. The only problem would be if they're trying to influence the kids to change and live a certain lifestyle. If you're not trying to infuse your ways on me, I don't have to condone what you do. Your leadership skills are running the organization efficiently. So
it's interesting though, because teachers are leaders, and not to pick on teachers, but a lot of times you ask young kids who have been exposed to great teachers what they want to be, and they'll say, I want to be a teacher, because that's the adult role that they identify with. They're with their teachers 7-8 hours a day. Mm-hmm. And whether the teacher is drilling in their head you want to be a teacher isn't necessary. She's just a good, or he's just a good teacher, the influence of their leadership. And I think, Jessica, in defense of some of what you're thinking, maybe a lot of times people are thinking, well, the leadership person becomes the person that child looks to and wants to imitate. And if they're imitating behavior, they may be imitating behavior patterns that...
You're assuming that they're acting openly gay, though. I had some gay teachers in school you wouldn't know unless they told you.
Yeah, because it was taboo, and they did not say. But I think in an environment where it's permissible to be openly gay, it may not be as hidden, as repressed. It's going to be open. I mean, this is what they're saying. They're allowing open gay relationships or open gay students and young people. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how the Scouts organization adjusts to what's happening to it, and how many large organizations like the Southern Baptist, the Catholics have basically said they're taking a kind of wait and see approach. They're going to wait and see what implementation brings come January before they take a full position one way or the other.
But then you have the Mormons who fully support it.
Which is surprising. The Mormons fully supported it, because I was surprised at that. So, I mean, I don't know how I feel.
It's a difficult topic.
It really is. It's probably the right thing to do.
The Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts are going to remain relevant regardless. So it's time to change the mindset of America, period. Because you can still even touch on, this is totally unrelated, but even like people in NBA, NFL coming out saying they're gay, that doesn't affect the way they play ball. They're still who they are.
That's true. Well, this is a great topic. We may have to revisit it on the opposite side of this commercial, but we got to take a commercial break, okay? So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys are much too much. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We're going to beat them and bust them.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Let's get a little bit rowdy. R-O-W-D-Y.
Take time to be a dad today. Call or visit fatherhood.gov to learn more.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us and staying with us. Well, we've got an interesting topic going today with our wonderful co-hosts, Jessica Martinez and Dr. Masih Bavard-Wynn and Donna Ayers. And on IMARA Woman, we don't shy away from the tough topics. And this one has been kind of a tough one. Mm-hmm. And as we wrap this one up, I just wanted to get some last thoughts on Where do you think this is headed with the Boy Scouts of America? Do you think that the organization is going to lose massive membership as a result of this, or will it survive?
I think it survives. I mean, it's a growing pain, but like Marcia said, the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts are always going to be relevant.
How about you, Marcia?
I think it's going to survive. They will lose some members, but not massive enough, not enough members to make that great of an impact. I think right now it's just the backlash going in because they have to adjust to the idea of accepting that, but they'll be okay.
Jessica?
I agree. I believe that they will survive, and I'm not against anyone that's gay, but it is a difficult topic. Yeah.
I think they will survive too. I think though, if I think a part of their survival will depend on how well they really educate and inform their members, their parents especially, because the scouting organizations are supported by parent support. So, they have to make parents feel comfortable about some of the issues that, we've talked about today, because not everybody may not be as open as we are about this subject. So, and I'm not sure how open I am, but, not everybody feels the same. So, good discussion. Thank you, ladies. Well, Jessica, you've got the next topic. What are we talking about?
Protecting our children from sexual abuse. Recently at my job, we had a training on this topic, and it was horrifying, the information that I received. And I said, Wendy, we have to tell our viewers about preventing sexual abuse. I had no idea. I'm just going to read some of the figures. 1 out of 4 girls and 1 out of 6 boys would have been sexually abused before the age of 18. 70% of all sexual assaults, including on adults, occur to kids 17 and under. 50% of all victims of forcible sodomy, sexual assault with an object, and forcible touching are under the age of 12.
How was it,
50%. And here's just one more issue. One more statistics. 80% of all sexually abuse occurs in one adult and one child situations. How do you feel about that? I know it just blew me away. I cried. I was very upset for like 3 days because I couldn't believe it. Like, here we are, we're really worried, and we should be about terrorists, but meanwhile, our children, our future, are experiencing this every single day. What do we do?
I think the biggest challenge is finding a way to talk about it, even as adults. It's just not a topic that we tend to talk about. And then once we figure out how we're going to talk about it and get educated on it, we got to figure out how we tell our kids to talk to us. Because most of the time we would never know unless they are willing to come and we kind of know how to broach the subject. I think it's horrible.
It has to start at a young age when your kids are even learning body parts or anything about themselves. That's an important part to tell them what's appropriate, what's inappropriate, where people touch them, where they should not touch them. That has to start at a very early age, and keep an open dialogue with your child so they feel comfortable coming with you and telling you if someone did touch them inappropriately.
And speaking of that, another statistic, almost 3/4 of those that are abused wait at least a year before they tell anybody.
Wow.
And almost 50% can wait up to 5 years. So that's why that communication is even more important. Somebody that's waited a year or much less 4 or 5 years, the person that has abused them could have moved on to another area, be, abusing other children. So I think that's a very important thing, is to encourage that conversation early on. And I think children know when something doesn't feel right. And just to encourage them to trust that.
Yeah.
You also have to know your child. If I know that I have an outgoing child and they suddenly become withdrawn, there's signs, they're small signs maybe, but there are things to look for if you really know your child.
Well, I can't imagine, what it would be like for a child to be left in the care of someone that's sexually abusing them. And more often than not, that's what you said. One of the statistics you gave was one adult, one child kind of relationship.
Right. Yeah. Because well, 6 out of 10 abusers are a friend of the family, a babysitter, or a neighbor. So this is not just happening with, we think of a stranger or
Abduction or something.
Yeah. These are people that we know, and this is going on every day. We have to do something about it, and we have to really become accountable to our, to our community, our churches. Everybody knows somebody that's being abused, and we have to do something.
I've known of situations where the abuser was in a family, and it's happened generationally, and that's really sad.
Well, a third of all children and young adults who have been abused repeat the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's even more important to break that cycle.
Yeah,
That's right. And that's why creating awareness, and like you said, having that discussion with the children and letting your community know, because, a lot of times, some kids never tell anyone, and they just live a life of, torture.
That's right.
And if you know someone, please reach out and help. And we're gonna have someone, and we're gonna have someone here, and she's gonna give us some advice on what to do.
That's a great segue. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll bring in our special guest to provide some information, help, suggestions, and hopefully some resources to parents who may find themselves in this horrible situation with their kids. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
Welcome back to IMARA Woman Magazine. We've got an interesting discussion going here this morning. We're talking about child sexual abuse, a very difficult topic, and we're happy to have with us today to kind of shed some light on what can be done, what parents are doing, what organizations are doing. Miss Bet Williams. And Bet, you are with the Children's Trust of South Carolina.
I am.
Tell us a little bit about the Children's Trust.
The Children's Trust is a statewide organization that works to strengthen and support public and private prevention efforts that keep South Carolina's children safe. So we're all about prevention. And primarily we work to prevent child abuse, neglect, and unintentional injuries. And so up underneath our umbrella, we have Safe Kids South Carolina, Prevent Child Abuse South Carolina. We also are an advocacy organization, so we're the former voices for South Carolina's children, and we are the Children's Trust Fund of South Carolina.
Wow.
And the Trust Fund is the group that somebody mentioned earlier, is the checkoff group, and it's the folks that do fund local community prevention program. I think there's a lot of things that we can do, and I think that there are things you have to think about from the whole system. From, do children know what is appropriate? Do parents know how to be watchful of their kids? Or do we have systems and policies in place that are going to limit that one-on-one opportunity for a predator? And then, do we have money in place then to help abuse victims to catch these folks and to get them off the streets? Because if they are repeat offenders, if you think about if you can get 1 or 2 off the street, you've exponentially increased the number of children who won't be a victim. And so those things are all very, very important. But I think there's several things that is, we move into the summer and we talk about, what can we do to keep our children safe. I think as parents, we need to really be aware of where are our children and who's with them. Mm-hmm. And, one of the things that we do some messaging about child care situations. Always be leery of the folks that are taking care of your children that don't want you showing up. Mm-hmm. Why do they not want you showing up? Why are they not specific about their schedules? You know, ask those hard questions and let people know you're watching them. Because this is a crime of opportunity as well, just like any other crime. And if you limit the opportunities, we can limit the incidences of child sexual abuse.
You know, I know that there's a certain amount of regulation that goes into child care facilities, but it looks like a lot of times what's happening is this might be someone that's known by the family, it might even be a family member, it might be that neighbor that's keeping your kid and maybe two others, you know, where there isn't that kind of regulation and, you know, investigatory authority. What do we do when we suspect that the neighbor down the street that's keeping the kids, maybe your kid is an abuser?
Well, I think there are a couple things you can do. If you feel like a child is in immediate danger, then you call 911. I mean, that's the first thing. If you feel like something bad is happening right that second to the child, then you call the appropriate authorities. If you are...
What if you're not really sure?
If you're not really sure, there are two things you can do. You can still call the police if you feel like something bad is happening. You can also make an anonymous report to the Department of Social Services. And those reports are anonymous. They are kept confidential. But you have to be able to give them enough information for them to follow up. You have to be able to give the address of where the child is, the child's name. You've got to have enough information other than, I just saw this bad thing happening in the grocery store and you need to go work on it. Well, they don't then have enough to follow up on.
How long does it take them to follow up?
There are rules in place that they have to follow up pretty quickly. And then what happens, DSS will then look at a situation and assess it. And then in the state of South Carolina, DSS is also changing how they work with child abuse and child abuse victims. So they're also taking a look at, you know, what is bad enough that warrants removing a child from a home, and what is a situation where you might need to strengthen the family. What does that family need? Most of, I think it's 60% of the child abuse cases, child abuse and neglect cases in our state are from neglect. That might be medical neglect. It might be that, you know, a mom is working 2 jobs and she has to leave her kids home in the evening.
That's normally the case.
And for a state that's as poor as South Carolina, that's not surprising that a lot of that is just from neglect, because the largest form of neglect is what we call a lack of concrete supports. There's not enough money to pay for a babysitter. There might not be enough money to change a diaper as often as you should. So that's one of them. But when we come back to child sexual abuse, in 2011, there were, of all the child abuse and neglect cases, only 5.6% were sexual abuse in the state. So it was 633 children. And so it's not a huge number, but it also points out something that's very, very important, which is the underreported nature of this crime. Is that a lot of people don't report, you talked on this earlier, a lot of people don't report it, they're ashamed to report it, and you've got a child in a situation where they don't know what to do. They don't know whether to call DSS, they don't know who to rely upon. So it's really important, like you said, to know your kids, to look at those real subtle signs, because it could be that all of a sudden there's a loss of appetite, or all of a sudden they're eating a lot, or all of a sudden they're quiet, or they're overly concerned for their own siblings. You know,
aggression is another
aggressive
sign.
behavior,
Non-compliance.
They might be having problems with their peers. They might get really angry all of a sudden, or they might be withdrawn. So there's a lot that can point to that. But, you know, we all get busy as moms, and you miss those things. And so you have to kind of be thinking, and think about that intuition. What doesn't feel right? Because if it doesn't feel right, it might not be right.
There are some cases I've even seen, probably a few on TV, like a mother has a boyfriend, and the daughter goes and tells the mother, reports abuse to the mother, but the mother doesn't believe the daughter and believes the boyfriend over the daughter. Cases like that.
And that's a shame.
Sad.
That is a shame.
But it happens, you know.
And one of the things that you've been through the darkness to light training, one of the things the darkness to light training does point out is that most cases are most of the time when a child is going to tell you it is true. It is very rarely made up.
Yeah, 95% of the time.
Right. That it is. If a child is telling you that, then there's a good chance it is true.
Yeah.
What's the likelihood that maybe this abuser or the person that's sexually abusing the child is a child themselves, is another minor. But because I'm hearing a lot more situations where that's the case.
It's another reason that your after-school facilities and your churches and all these other places also need to have policies in place that deal with youth watching youth. Because you might have incredibly responsible 15, 16, 17-year-olds watching the 9 and 10-year-olds, and you want to make sure that they also understand what's appropriate behavior and not appropriate behavior. The thing that we all need to be careful about is the internet. There's a lot of soliciting that goes on in the internet, and a lot of phishing, and a lot of, casting of, predators are out there casting a net, and who can they
one
draw
out of
in?
5 children are solicited on the internet.
They've done a lot of that on
Especially young
Dateline too, where they've set up the cameras in the
Oh,
houses,
yeah.
and it's usually an adult preying on a child through the internet or other social media.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, it's Beth, thank you so much, first
Well,
of all,
thank
for
you.
coming and sharing this information. Can you just give us in our wrap as we go to commercial some sources maybe, and we can certainly throw some full
Absolutely.
screens up?
There are a couple things that organizations can do. The Children's Trust is more than happy. It's part of our mission to come into organizations and do training. We are trained Darkness to Light facilitators, and we have 2 different trainings that we can do. One is called it's Child Sexual Abuse Prevention Training. Another one is a community strengthening training, where communities can kind of look at that as a whole. You've also got your Darkness to Light. We have a website with a lot of information on it. So.
Well, it's a very timely topic, and we hope that our viewers take advantage of those resources, because talking is the key, communicating is the key. And as you said, Marcia, the earlier we start talking to our children about what's acceptable behavior or not, will hopefully lead to them being comfortable sharing with us, when not only when they are being abused, if that should ever happen, God forbid, or maybe they may see someone else is being abused if they know. That's an excellent point to end on. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for being here with us.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Together now, we can make it better now. Come on.
Moving a little and eating better every day can help make you and your child healthier. Search We Can to find out more.
Well, that completes our show today. We hope that you enjoyed it and that you learned something that both inspires and empowers you. Remember, you can watch any of IMARA Woman Magazine shows on YouTube. Just search IMARA Woman Magazine on your YouTube channel.
You can also read IMARA Woman Magazine online in our e-magazine.
Don't forget to like IMARA Woman Magazine on Facebook.
And follow IMARA Woman Magazine on Twitter.
Well, until the next time, peace and blessings.